Hello, everybody. Happy, what day are we on today? Thursday. We're on Thursday today. I'm Rosie. Nice to see you all. I've not been on here for a little while. I had a month off in August, mainly because it was the summer holidays and my children are quite loud, and I didn't want you to have to listen to that in the background. But it's really good to be back. However, I will apologise in advance. I'm quite unwell. I've got a bit of a cold. So I'm so sorry if I do lots of coughing and spluttering. I'll try my best to hold it in. I've got a glass of water just in case. But today's craft is nice and easy. So if I do go quiet, it's probably just so that you can just enjoy watching rather than listening to me trying to speak and then coughing everywhere. And luckily we've got a lovely simple craft today, so I don't have to do too much explaining, nothing too technical. It's just a really cute idea. I think it's just a really cute, nice thing to do. I think it's probably quite a nice thing to do now as well. I feel like we're really going through this transition in seasons, and I'm starting to feel very autumnal and getting cozy and wrapped up and warm, and I feel like this craft kind of works quite nicely with this, the kind of new season. So today we're going to do a Matchbox book, and I use that term very loosely. We can kind of do whatever we want with this, really, but I just quite like the idea of, I mean, I've done some Matchbox crafts before, but I've been really into watercolor at the minute. So I'm going to watercolor this one. You don't have to use watercolor if you don't want. You can use whatever materials you have. But I just quite like the idea of giving someone a little Matchbox and then them opening it up and it having a little sort of concertina book in it. So I'm going to show you the example now. We're going to use this same box today. We might, if we have time, we might decorate the box itself. But for now, I just quite like the idea that it's this lovely sort of craft card. I feel like that's quite autumnal. And then when we open that up, what you've got inside is a lovely little book of, I mean, how far does it go? I've forgotten. Quite far. So I've not stuck this one in yet because I figured we could do that later so you can see me do it. But this is, I mean, it's pretty long. Look at that. And then on the other side, so this is like, I've just concertinaed the page like so. And what we could do if we wanted is, I suppose we could figure out a way to sort of keep it all on that side, or we can do the other side. So I have written on the back, find beauty in all the tiny things, because this is a nice little tiny craft that we're doing today. So we're going to sort of replicate that. And it doesn't have to be this big if you don't want it to. If this seems quite challenging or a bit daunting, you absolutely don't have to make one this big. Hopefully, you'll notice here that I've put some tape along here, and that's because I've run out of paper and I've added more to it to make it longer. So there's nothing stopping you making it shorter. Shall we? I mean, I wasn't going to mention it, but I will mention it because someone will spot it. Just so you know that I did spell the word beautiful wrong. I missed out the U and had to add it in. As long as we're all aware that I did that. But I dealt with my error and I put the U back in. I was so annoyed with myself. So essentially, it's very, very simple. We're going to fold up some paper. We're going to paint on it. We're going to stick it in a tiny little matchbox, and then we're going to give it away as a gift. Or you could keep it for yourself if you wanted to. If you're really interested in journaling or diary keeping, things like that, that might be quite a nice thing for you to do for yourself. I just think it's a really nice idea. So first things first, I've got myself a piece of A3 paper. Now, you don't have to use A3 paper. If you've only got normal A4 paper, that's fine. If you don't have plain paper, that's also fine. You could 100% do this with like a newspaper and then paint over it or collage it, stick things on it. It doesn't have to be fancy paper. It doesn't have to be a specific type. This paper I've got it's not card. It's quite a thick paper, but it's not fancy. The only reason I'm using A3 today is because I'll get more folds out of one length of it than I would with A4, so I can do less sticking. But I mean, really, all you need is a bit of tape. I've got some masking tape, so this is sort of brown masking tape. The reason I use masking tape rather than sellotape is because it's got that matte finish, which means I can paint over the top of it. The sellotape, because it's quite shiny, it's quite hard to draw on top of. So I'm basically going to start by getting the inside of my Matchbox. So the Matchboxes, by the way, you can use a normal Matchbox if you so wish. In fact, I kind of would like to have used a normal Matchbox, but I didn't have one because I quite like the designs on them. But this is just like a craft Matchbox. You can buy packs of these from craft shops. I think I got these from the range. Yeah, I got them from the range, and I think you get about like a pack of 4 or something for a couple of pounds. And they're the sort of plain brown ones, so it means that you don't have to cover over any designs or anything. You can do whatever you want with them. So the outer shell I'm not going to use because it's slightly bigger than the inside, so it means if I cut it to this shape, it will be too big to fit inside the Matchbox. So I'm going to use this one, and in fact what I'm also going to do is I'm going to very purposely make it ever so slightly smaller than the box itself, because you'll see these edges sort of stick out quite a bit. They're quite lumpy, so if we were to do it exactly this width, you'll find it won't fit inside the Matchbox, so it does need to be slightly smaller. So I'm going to sort of sit that. Can you see I'm ever so, I mean, you probably can't, maybe if I move my hand out of the way. There we go, that's better. You can kind of see I've overlapped it ever so slightly, and that's to sort of account for this bit here. So we're not going too wide, so it doesn't fit in the box. And then I'm going to mark it, and again I'm going to mark in the same way. I'm going to mark it ever so slightly in from the Matchbox. If my camera would like to focus at any point, that would be great. Let's see if I can move my hand out the way, it might change it. So I've marked it so it sits slightly in from both of these edges, so that it doesn't it's not too wide to fit inside. And I'm marking it with a pencil just there. And then, I mean, we can be really neat about this if we want. We can measure it and draw a straight line. I'm just going to fold it. I'm quite good at folding. If you're not very good at folding, I would suggest measuring it all the way along the length of your paper and doing it that way. But I'm just gonna do a, what do we call, a guesstimate. We're gonna do a guesstimate, and I'm just gonna fold it. I'm gonna hope for the best, try and line up those lines either side, and then I'm gonna fold it like so. Now, what might happen here is I might find that I've guesstimated too wide and it won't fit in which case we can chop it down. But I'd rather that than doing it too small. So I folded it along the length there, and then I'm going to get my scissors and I'm going to cut along the fold line as neatly as I can. Now, I think I might have used 2 of these to make my example piece. I think for the purposes of time, I'm just going to use 1. So what I would say is that if you would like to have a book, where is my book? It's over here. If you want a book as big as this example one, so let's see, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. So I've got 17 images on the inside of this book. And I have used for that 2 strips lengthways of A3 to get 17. So for the example today, I'm just going to do 1 length just because I don't want to run out of time and I want to be able to show you how to put it all together. But if you do want a larger one, and you can have one as large as you want really, as long as it fits inside the Matchbox, I'd say this is quite a nice size. You definitely get another length in if you press down hard enough, but it does fit in there quite nicely. But what I would say is if you do want to do on this size, then just make sure you do 2 lengths of A3, and then all we're going to do is tape it together with some masking tape on the end there to make 1 very long strip of paper. And you'll see on this one where the brown tape is, that's where I've taped it. And that's it really. That's as technical as it gets for this craft. All that you need to be able to do is cut your strips of paper and then fold them to the right size. So I'm going to use this strip here to begin with. And first things first, I'm going to see if it fits inside. And I think that it does. Yeah, that fits absolutely perfectly. Well done me. I'm proud of myself there. And then I'm going to fold it over inside the Matchbox so I can get a sort of basically get an idea of how wide it is. So we're looking about that wide. And then I can fold that into place. And then I'm going to do a concertina fold. So essentially I'm just going to fold it against itself as neatly as I can so that all the pages are the same size. Now, I think that this is the best way to do this because the whole idea is that it stays inside the box, so you can pull it out and it stays inside the box. But if you want to make like a little book, if you're good at book binding and you want to staple it or have it so that you can read it like a normal book, then feel free to do so. It just means that you have to fully take it out of the box to be able to read it. So I'm just going to very neatly fold these. And again, if you don't like if you want to be very, very neat about it, you're very welcome to measure it out. I just quite like, this is quite what's the word? You know, it's quite messy, like me. The only problem you have with folding it like this is you sometimes, if it sort of goes over the edge a little bit. But I don't mind that at all. And I always say when I'm talking about folding paper, so when I've taught sort of, you know, like making like origami is to fold with your nail. So you sort of make a fold and then you sort of score it with your nail so that your fold is very, very tight. That's sort of what you want. Now, we're getting towards the end here. And I can't remember if this fits exactly or not in terms of the shape for the last piece. So when we go over the last time, you see it's not quite the right length to fit. So we've got a bit of an overlap here. Now, in this instance, if you wanted to add more to it, you could. So if you were going to use your second strip of A3, then that would be totally fine. But I'm not going to. I'm going to use that to tape into the box itself. So what I will probably do at the end is I will use that overhang to tape into the box so that it's stuck and then you can't release it from the box. I think that's quite a nice idea. So I'm going to fold it all back up. I'm going to make sure it fits nicely. It's an ever so slightly tight squeeze, but it fits. That's the main thing. So there we have our lovely book. And we'll tape in that at the end. We're not going to tape it in now because, of course, if something awful happens and it goes very wrong, then we can start again and use the same Matchbox. So now I've got my little book. It's got a few pages in there. I'm going to make sure that my front one opens the correct way. If it doesn't open the correct way, I think that's also fine. And now what we can do is we can start decorating. So I'm going to leave my front cover for now, just because that will take a little while to dry. And then I won't be able to go onto this side. And this side has got plenty of opportunities to be painted on. And I'm just going to do some freehand painting. And I'm going to use some very, very cheap watercolours to do this. So I have got here, you may have seen these in the shop. So it's like a wheel of watercolours and they sort of stack up like this. And you can get them in most craft shops. You can get them in most of the cheaper craft shops. And they're great. I don't have any qualms about these watercolours at all. I know you can buy watercolours, quite expensive watercolours. You can buy really fancy ones I think unless they're sort of like metallic or iridescent, I don't really know why some watercolours are more expensive than others. To be fair, I don't use watercolours as much as I do other paints, so I don't know a whole lot about watercolours. Maybe I should invest in some really fancy ones and then I can tell you what the difference is. But for the purposes of the sort of painting that I do, the cheapest watercolours you can get are fine. You can buy packs of watercolours. I've got some metallic watercolours that I got from somewhere like The Range or even pound shops sometimes, and you can get them for a couple of quid. So you don't have to buy fancy paints. And like I said, if you don't have paints, or you don't like painting, then you could totally do this with pencil crayon or oil pastels or pens, whatever you feel the most comfortable with. And also it kind of depends on what your design is going to be for. And what it's, who it's for and what sort of design you're doing. But because I've been enjoying using my watercolours at the minute, I'm going to do watercolours. It's also quite nice to watch. I know this because I was painting a picture with watercolours the other day and I was doing something quite intricate, and my 4-year-old daughter stood over me and just stared. She just stared and stared and stared while she was watching me paint, and she was quite mesmerised by it. And I thought to myself, I think this would probably be quite nice to watch as a video. Maybe I should do some sort of some watercolour videos where I don't speak. That would be quite good this week. Some watercolour videos where I don't speak and you just watch me watercolour. So if anything, this might just be quite nice to watch. If my illness will allow me to paint nicely, let's find out. So I'm going to do a very similar thing to this one. I'm thinking quite natural, quite simple shapes, flora and fauna, random objects, quite easy to do, but quite effective, I think, in watercolour. I like these two. These two are very nice. They're my favourite. Maybe I'll start with one of these little flowers. And we're just going to work our way along. So if you are interested in the watercolour aspect of this, the best advice I can give to anyone who doesn't use watercolours often is that you want to have quite a large amount, not a large amount, but you want a puddle of water in your colour. And you want that puddle to become the same colour as the paint. Now, this might sound obvious, but when you put water into a watercolour, you'll kind of see, it's quite hard to show on camera, but when you're really close up to it, you can see how much of this sort of smushing of the paintbrush you have to do to make that water become exactly the same colour as the colour underneath it. And once that puddle has become the same colour, you know that you've got enough pigment in your water for it to be strong and show up on your paper. And then what I always tend to do is almost wipe a bit off on the side of the colour so that I'm not just blobbing loads of water onto my paper. So let's start. I wonder if I should close in slightly just to make this a more interesting view for you. Unfortunately, my face camera is just going to be me leaning to one side like this, so you see the messiness of my shelves. I've had a lot of stock that I've been making. That's the only excuse I can give for the messy background. So I'm going to start with one of these lovely flowers. This brush I'm using is called a Rigger paintbrush. R-I-G-G-E-R. You can buy packs of Rigger brushes on Amazon quite cheaply. You can buy like a pack of 6 for sort of £5. And they've just got this sort of very long, thin sort of nib, I suppose. A bit like a pinstriping brush that you see people painting sign writing and pinstriping cars. It just means you can get really detailed lines quite easily. So I'm going to start with my flower. And I'm just going to, and you see how dark that red is. And the reason that red is so dark is because I've been smushing that paint with the water. So that puddle, I'm going in for a bit. Actually, I should probably move the water into shot as well so you can see me dipping into the water and then creating more of a puddle. And then I'm just doing these sort of wiggly lines. And then I shall colour it in. I think once you get the hang of the colours with watercolour, it's a very relaxing craft. because it's quite nice to work with, I think. There we go. And I'm going to get quite a bit of water now, just so that I can colour all of this in. And what we might do at this point is we might get some water and smush another colour. I'm saying smush because I can't think of any other word to describe how you're dabbing the paintbrush into the paint to sort of make the pigment move in amongst the water. So I'm just trying to add a bit of tone here by I mean, you can't really tell, to be honest. It all looks pretty red, but I'm trying to use a couple of different coloured reds, so it's you know, it's got a bit of what's the word I'm looking for? Oh my goodness, my brain. I'm definitely going to have a lovely lie down after this. So I'm going to try this very light colour so that I can pop in there. I just want different tones of each colour, I guess, is what I'm getting at. I think tone is the right word, isn't it? Shade. Maybe shade is the word I'm looking for. Different shades of red. And the more wet the paper is, so the more sort of watery the paint is, the more you can dip in with other colours if you so wish. So when you dab in different colours, it will spread more. So I'm going to do that in a second with the middle. I'm going to give it a bit of what colour do I want? That one. So I can give the flower a sort of centre. What's the centre of a flower called? I've forgotten. What would you call it? I can't see that paint there. So I'm just going in with the darker brown now. And I'm smushing away with my paintbrush. I'm going to drip off some excess, and then I'm going to drip that in there. And you can sort of see, well, you probably can't see fully, but you can kind of see it sort of spreading, that brown in the middle. And you can always go over it afterwards if you want more detail, which I may well do. But I'm just, there you go. So we've got our first flower. Oh, I think, do you know, I'm going to do a little green. I'm going to do a little green line. This green's already wet because I've been painting literally minutes before I started this. I'm going to do a little green line here. Very gently. Lovely. There we go. Does it want a leaf maybe? Can I do a little leaf on here? Very nice. So the other reason that I find this quite relaxing is because we've broken the paper down into little segments. It feels less scary, I feel, to do this sort of painting. I think it's sort of it's quite nice to fill a very small space with one shape. I think that's much less scary than sort of being given one piece of paper and going, there you go, paint that. So that's why I quite like doing this. So I'm going to do a star next. I'm going to try my best not to bash the camera quite so much. I can't promise anything though. So I'm going to go in with this. Where's the other blue? Have we lost? Oh, it's hiding. It's like, where's my dark blue gone? Hiding behind the water. And I'll give the camera another little wobble. Why not? Okay, so I'm going to go in with this sort of, what should we call this? I'm going to call this midnight blue, I think. So I'm also consciously doing contrasting colours for each one. So I've started with a red, so now I'm going to go to the blue, and then the next one will probably be a green or a yellow, just so that we've got a sort of variety. So I'm going to do a star for this one. I'm going to do a very, what would you call it? It's going to have lots and lots of points, heavily pointed star. And that's why these paintbrushes are great, because you can get really nice pointy lines on them. So I'm thinking lots of nature for this. And this will be totally dependent on what you're doing and who you're doing it for. But I think this is a really good starting point. I think sort of naturey things are quite good because there's so many shapes that you can easily do and they can look quite effective. Okay, so I'm now going in with a more, what I tend to find is that the outlines can be a bit more pigmenty, so sort of less water, more colour. And then when we come to colouring them in almost, we can sort of spread more water around and then it makes it a bit quicker. Oh, this is a really lovely blue. I think I'm probably going to nick a bit of the blue off from up here as well, just again, so we have a bit of shade. And what are the, well, I don't know what these colours look like. Let's try one of these blue ones, shall we? Oh, ocean themed. That's a lovely idea, Diane. Oh, there's so many possibilities with ocean themed. Because, okay, so this is a very good point. Thank you for bringing this up. Because the other thing that we can consider, I just said then that I'm going to do contrasting colours for each one so that we're breaking up the colours for each picture. However, if you're doing a theme, so if you're doing ocean theme, for example, then I think that's also, so I'm always trying to think of ways of making art less scary for people, because I know that art is very scary for a lot of people, and I'm on this quest to sort of make everyone believe that they are creative and they're good at art, because I think everyone is. I genuinely believe that. Even people that are convinced that they're rubbish, they're not, I promise them. So one of the things that I always think about is how you break up things to make them less scary. So the folding up of the paper really, really helps. And the idea of the contrasting colour also makes it less scary, because it's taking away the element of choice almost. It's sort of taking away you having to think too much about what you're doing. So the idea of the contrasting colour is kind of going, well, I'm going to start with red because I'm doing a flower. And so the next colour can't be red. It has to be something that's not a warm colour. So it must be blue. And so that makes it, again, it's less scary because you're not having to think too much about whether you're making the right choice. And so if you're doing a theme, that's also kind of less scary, because you can say, well, if my theme is going to be ocean themed, it means that the colours that I'm going to use are going to be a selection of blues and greens because I'm doing ocean theme. And that's also less scary, because you can go, well, I don't need to think about what colours I'm using because I've got this theme already, which sits nicely with these colours. Oh, there's so many things you could do. So let's think about different shapes you could do. So obviously we've got our shells. There's a few different shell shapes you could do, isn't there? I'm thinking coral. Diane, if you're interested in the ocean, if it's something you care a lot about, not too long ago, it was definitely in the summer, I want to say June, one of my sessions was like a coral reef themed collage where we cut out coral reef. You can go back into the archives of all these videos and watch them. So if you go in onto the Facebook page and go through all the videos, if you type Rosie Johnson in, you should find all of my videos. And that coral reef collage was really fun. I really enjoyed that. Can recommend if you're interested in the ocean. But yeah, there's so many different things. I suppose this is kind of like a little bit of it's like what would you call it? Almost like a scientific kind of journaling. So if you were to take this, all you would need, this is why this is great because it's so tiny, you could take your little Matchbox with your paper away, like on holiday with you or whatever, and you could almost paint the pictures of the things that you see. So if you're on the beach, you could collect rocks and shells, and then you could paint each one in each square, and it'd almost be like a pictorial journal of your trip, which I quite like. I'm hopefully going to go to the beach in October, so maybe I'll do one in October. Maybe I'll do a little beach themed one. You could also put stuff in the Matchbox, couldn't you? You could put the little book and the things that you found inside the Matchbox. Oh, the possibilities are endless. Okay, right, Rosie, stop ranting. Let's do another picture. I think I'm going to do a sort of brown next. I'm going to do a sort of, I don't know what I'm going to do. Oh, I know. I think I'm going to do a hand. I like paint. I've been painting hands quite a lot at the minute. I'm not very good at them. I'm rubbish at technically drawing hands, but I do like the shape of a hand. So I'm going to do that. Now, here's the thing. We've got another way of painting, and I have spoke about this a few times on these classes before. If you've ever watched any of my other sessions, I do talk a lot about negative space. So I'm going to do an example now of negative space, which is where we paint the background and not the picture itself. So I'm going to do my hand very carefully, try and fill the space. And it's not going to be a technically good hand. I don't need it to be. I just want it to be sort of hand shaped. I don't want this to be technical, to be honest. I want it to be quite kind of childlike and fun and free. I don't want to think too much about being, you know, artistically, you know what I'm saying. It's got a thumb and 4 fingers. That's all that matters. So I'm going to do my shape there. And then I'm going to do a little shape inside. I'm going to do an eye inside it. I like doing eyes inside hands. So that's my little eye there. And then what I'm going to do, well, maybe we'll give you some eyelashes as well. One of the things, my youngest daughter started school. She's just started, and they were really impressed with her because she can draw a picture of a face, but she does the eyes as circles with eyelashes, which is apparently quite advanced for a 4-year-old. But I think the teachers have realised immediately that it's just because she copies me. They're like, oh, she's just copying the way that Rosie does faces. So you can see now I'm going in with the paint, but I'm going around the outside. And this is another really great technique into feeling less scary about doing art, because this is really, really easy and it just breaks up what you're doing and gives it a bit of, you know, depth and it's more interesting, more pleasing on the eye. It's more aesthetically pleasing to sort of have some of these images broken up with this kind of, so this one is going, I'm basically painting the whole page apart from that hand in the middle there. And again, it's sort of quite therapeutic because sort of really it's just sort of nice colouring in. Sort of all we're doing really. That's why I quite like watercolours, because once you get a handle on the sort of painting shapes with the paintbrush, it does involve just a lot of colouring in shapes, which is really enjoyable. Although saying that, I really like, you know, painting and decorating. I really like doing the skirting boards and the edges, the cutting in, which most people hate because it involves painting in straight lines, but that is something I'm very good at. I should put that in my CV, really. One of my skills is despite not being a painter and decorator, I'm very good at cutting in. Okay, so there we've got our hand. So now we've got all these lovely contrasting colours. So we've got red, blue, brown. So now I think we can safely say it's going to be a green, isn't it? So something green. What? I should check the time, make sure I'm not ranting too much. Yeah, we're going to get this done, no problem. So I'm going to go in with a green now. And I think, let me just consult my example piece, see if there's anything in there we could do. I mean, there's some lovely leaves, or do like a snake. I do like painting snakes as well. I think I'm going to just do like I quite like, where has it gone? Sort of some nice spiky leaves, I think we're going to do. Okay, so green. We've got this lovely jade. I think we're going to use this one here. This is like a lovely jade green. It's my favourite. You can probably tell because it's the green that's got the most taken out of it, because I've used it the most. And you'll know my watercolours by whether my children have used them or not, because the ones that have got one colour over the top of all the colours means that one of my kids have been at them, just getting black on everything. But that's another great reason to buy watercolours, is they're very easy to clean. You can just sort of wipe the tops off, you know, they're not too messy. They can't be ruined, you know, because they're not liquid already. You sort of have to add water to them. They are very easy to maintain. So for this one, I'm going to make my way down from the top corner here. And I'm going to do a lovely wiggly line, like so. And then I'm going to do some pointy leaves. And actually, now I think about it, that example piece that I've done, just thinking then, where's my navy blue? This one doesn't have a navy blue. I didn't actually use watercolours to paint the example one. I used, so this example piece, I did with even less sort of technical paint. I used my kids', you know, you get paints in, again, pound shops, and they look like watercolours because they're circular and they're solid and you add water to them. But they're not watercolours, they're sort of just like kids' paint. They're really, really cheap. And they've still worked really well. The colours work as long as you can get that pigment in there with the water. As long as you smush your brush enough, you can always get a decent colour. So yeah, that example piece isn't even using watercolours. It's using like toddler paint. It's like they were the really big round solid paints that you get really cheaply so that kids can practice painting. And I still think the outcome's quite good. So I'm just doing some pointy leaves here. And I think I find this therapeutic because I like watching, like I like the challenge of doing a smooth line coming to a point, and if it goes to a point nicely, there's something really satisfying about that. I think that's one of the reasons I love painting so much, is just that kind of really zoning out. It is a very mindful craft if you can get past the sort of idea that, you know, oh, you have to be an artist to do this sort of thing, is nonsense. I think anyone can do this sort of thing for sure. Okay. Now, I suppose the question is, does this need any more on it rather than this leaf? So once I've finished this spiky leaf, or spiky vine, I think we'll turn into the last leaf. I can slowly feel my voice diminishing as the minutes go by. I can feel by the end of this, my voice box is going to say, no, Rosie, you're not allowed to speak for the rest of the day. Okay, so I think that's enough for the leaf, but I tell you what I'm going to do, and here's another little technique that just sort of, what's the word I'm looking for? Just sort of is really simple. I'm just going to get my red there. Just a tiny bit of red. And I'm just going to border this one. So again, very simple, straight line, and then I'm going to do another one this side, straight line, and it's just sort of bordered it. I'm going to show you that a bit closer up so you can see. Easy peasy. Okay, so now we're going to move on to our next one. I think we're going to have to do a sort of orange and yellow number now. I don't know what's happened to this white. I don't know how I've used that much. But we're going to use, so we're going to use the sort of yellows and oranges. What are we going to do now? I feel like I want to do another negative space. I don't know what to do though. We could do something very, very simple. Maybe we'll try and do this. Oh, I know. Let's do a sun. Let's do a sun. If you've not watched one of my sessions before, I do this a lot. I'm sort of thinking out loud, trying to decide, being very, very indecisive. And then when I finally get there, we can all crack on. So I'm going to go in with this sort of darker yellow and also the orange as well. I sort of want a mixture of the two. And the reason I've turned the paper is because I'm going to do like a sun that sits this way. So I'm going to do a semicircle like so. Paint that one. Get some orange in there as well. Lovely. And then once we're happy with our semicircle, we can go in with our little sun rays. So I'm going to start in the middle, and I'm going to work my way from top to bottom. So I'm going to do a nice pointy line, and then I'm going to wiggle like so. So it's easier, I think, to start with a pointy line. I might be wrong, actually. I quite like. That's it. And I'm going to try and get a bit more yellow out of this. I quite like doing lots of different colours. So they're all different colours of different shades of the same colour, I suppose. That one's annoying me because I didn't point it. There we go. Happy now. Wiggle, wiggle. There we go. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go in around the edge here so we don't see those lines where they overlap. There we go. Oh, beautiful. Okay, we're cooking on gas now. I've only got 3 more images to do on this side. If I have time, I'll do the other side, but you get the idea, don't you, really? So now we've done, okay, what colour needs to be next, do we think? I'm thinking either another red or maybe, I do have a couple of pinks, so we could do, I know what we're going to do. I know exactly what we're going to do. We're going to do a heart, but we're going to do a negative heart. Negative, not negative as in bad, negative space heart. So I'm going to, again, these pinks have been used a lot. We do like pink and purple in this house. So, oh no, I've just splattered water all over my, never mind. Again, another great reason to buy cheap watercolors. If you get it on the paper, it's quite easy to wipe off straight away because it's mainly water. And they're quite easy to go over as well, which is quite nice. So if you do go wrong. Okay, so I'm going to do my heart shape. And it's going to take up quite a lot of space. Lovely. And then we're going to paint the outside rather than the inside. We might decide that we want to put some kind of pattern on the inside afterwards, but let's see how it looks first. And what I might do, actually, I might dip in some red. So I'm just going to get a drip of red just to sort of like, again, give it a bit of texture. But mainly we're going to use the pink. And actually this sort of peachy colour up top here will fit quite nicely just to lighten some bits. Lovely. Let's go in with that peachy colour again, get some more of that. Yeah, that's nice. Okay, nearly there with the heart. Sort of trying to blend in the outline because I'm using a lighter colour. So sort of want it to not look like I've done an outline, if that makes sense. Lovely. Okay, we've got our outline. That's looking good. Yeah, I do want to do something to this heart, but I'm not sure what. I think what I'd like to do is just draw another heart on the inside of it with a very thin line. That's what I'm thinking. So I've got my pink and I'm just going to do this. Just so there's a bit of something else going on. Try my best to be as neat as possible with my lines. Going around. And this side. And you can kind of see as well that I'm not trying to do it all in one go because that's very hard to do with paint. Oh yeah, happy with that. I really like that against the colours of the sun as well. I think that looks really nice. Okay, so we've got 2 more to go. I feel like I need to do another green. I'm thinking like a brighter green might look quite nice. So I'm going to go back over to here. I think that will look nice against the heart. I know, let's do a very, this is a lovely simple one to do. I'm just going to do a spiral. I'm just going to do a really nice big spiral with this lighter green. I think spirals are a great sort of nice simple design that fills space really nicely, breaks things up. This green's lovely. I really like this green. This green looks really nice against the pink as well, next to the heart. And also, I think with a spiral, I quite like it when I purposely knock the camera, first of all, but making some lines thick and some lines thin. That's what I think is, that's what I would suggest with a spiral. I think people think spirals have to be all quite neat and regimented, but I think actually spirals look better if they're a bit wibbly wobbly and some thick lines, some thin lines. I think that actually is better. Oh my goodness me. There we go. Perfect. And then I'm going to dot the corners because we've got some extra space there. And I'm going to dot the corners with maybe like a dark brown. Just something nice and dark. Just do a little dot. And again, by really simple ways to frame an image, which just make it look a little bit more fancy. There we go. Got the little dots in the corner there. Perfect. Okay, we've got one last painting to do right at the end here. Oh my goodness, how are we on 10 to already? So I'm going to do one last painting and then I'm going to paint the front and then we can stick it into the box and then we're basically done. But what I would say is if you want to paint the other side, feel free to do so. I did with the original one here, I did paint a little quote. It doesn't have to be a quote. You don't have to write a quote at all. You could just do more images if you really enjoy doing the simple pictures, then please do that. Okay, so one last image on this side. I think it's going to have to be a blue, isn't it? Maybe a lighter blue, maybe one of these ones here. What do we want? What have I not done yet? We've done stars, we've done spirals, we've done leaves. Ooh, let's do an eye. Let's do a nice big eye. I like painting eyes. This can be very, very simple. And this is the other thing as well, is it will look better if you do a sort of selection of very simple and a bit more detailed. They don't all have to be detailed. You can be very, very simple. And again, the idea of like sort of breaking it up, very, very simple thick lines alongside some more delicate ones will look better than you trying to do very, very fancy pictures in every single one, I think. Because otherwise it's just too much information for your brain to sort of take in and it doesn't look as good. So it's a really good excuse to do some very simple painting. So this one's going to be super, super simple. Very thick lines. I'm doing this eye the other way around, by the way, if you hadn't noticed already. I'm doing it portrait because it will fit better on this bit of paper. We'll do it. So the best way I can describe painting an eye is doing an open bracket and a closed bracket, and then doing another open bracket. So this is sort of the eyelid here, and then doing your circle in the middle. Because what you'll find with eyes is mostly you try and do like a full circle, but if you do a full circle in an eye, it looks quite startled. So you're always best to not be able to fit your whole circle in, if that makes sense. So you can't get all the way around. I'm going to colour that one in there. I mean, I might colour the whole thing in, I'm not decided yet. I might just do like a little dot there. Because you could actually, it probably look better if we just coloured it all in. Yeah, let's just colour it all in. It's a very simple one, isn't it? Doesn't need to have all the details. And then we will obviously do the eyelashes because I love painting eyelashes. But very simple ones. Just a series of lines. And again, I'm going to go over this one again to sort of cover up those ends of the lines there. And then we'll do some lines coming out of this one. There we go. Very, very simple. So that's our eye done. And in fact, that's the whole strip done. So we've got our strip of paintings. We do need to do our front cover. These dots, these brown dots, are currently very wet because I dripped them on. So what I'm going to do is, little tip, you sort of you can sort of dry your brush, or you can sort of scrape it across the edge of your water pot so that it's not got much water in it. And then you sort of go over it. And what that does is your paintbrush then soaks up all the water so that the water is no longer on the paper, it's on the paintbrush instead. Excuse me, I do need to cough. And you'll notice then that the water is sort of not as bulbous. It's not like a drop, it's sort of soaked in. But it's, yeah, that's basically, that's much drier now. So we're probably safe. This blue eye is almost dry, even though we've only just finished painting it. So we can probably paint our front cover. Although I'm thinking actually what we could just do is move it over this side and then fold over this one. I seem to have managed to get some red on there. Excuse me, my throat's really taking a battering now. Oh, goodness me. Okay, so we're going to finish with our front cover. I wonder what we want to do for it. I'm just thinking maybe we should do some writing. Maybe we could write tiny book. Maybe tiny book. Let's do tiny book. Let's do that lovely dark purple again, I think. Excuse me. Okay, so I'm just going to write on the front of it, tiny book. Try not to wobble the camera. Maybe if I move it over this side a bit. Let's see if I can spell it properly. I was unable to write the word beautiful correctly. Okay, nearly there. Okay. Excuse me. And I'm just going to do some red lines just to give it another bit of colour. And I could spend more time on this, but we're getting towards the end of the session. So I'm going to fold this up now. I think we're basically all dry. And so we can fold this up. And oh my goodness, we will be careful with it, won't we? And then all I'm going to do is, I'm going to do this quite carefully. I'm going to move the camera back ever so slightly so we have a bit more space. And all I'm going to do is, I'm going to get a bit of masking tape. A very small piece, doesn't need to be a lot because it's only going in the Matchbox. And I'm going to put this on the little leftover bit we had there. Just make sure I'm doing it the right way around. Yeah. And then that's going to sit inside the Matchbox like so. Tape it down. Oh, is that right? Yeah, that's right, isn't it? Excuse me. I'm going to do another little bit there just to sort of make sure it's nice and secure. And then we can fold it all in like so. Now let's do the reveal, shall we? So we've got our Matchbox. We open it up like so. And then, oh, it sort of pops out by itself anyway. And then your little concertina book is revealed. Hang on, we've got one last one. Oh yes, there we go. And it's all stuck in there nicely. So there you go. And obviously, I did say at the beginning we can decorate the Matchbox. We didn't have time to do that today, but you are obviously welcome to do whatever you like with the Matchbox. There's so many possibilities. So there you have it. Tiny little book in a Matchbox. Let's put the example piece there for you to see. Using very cheap watercolours, very simple designs, negative space, colour contrasting. And that's me done. I hope you enjoyed yourselves. I really hope you all have a go at this. Let us know if you do. We'd love to see your creations. I'll be back next week. Next week I'm doing something very exciting, another tiny thing. We're going to use a deck of playing cards to turn into something beautiful. So come back next week to see us there. And I'm Rosie. Have a great weekend and see you soon. Bye.